Today we're talking about the Zhiyun WEEBILL Lab, this really like crazy looking gimbal, and some reasons that I really like this and why it might be one that you should consider. If you're new here to this channel, my name is Jeven Dovey. I do gear reviews, filmmaking tutorials, and I just like going on adventures and doing some travels around the world. So today we're talking about the Zhiyun WEEBILL Lab, and this is such a unique looking gimbal. Now, before we get into the details about this gimbal, I just want to make note that this is not a sponsored video. I was not paid to do this video. Zhiyun did send me this gimbal for free for me to test out, but all of my opinions are my honest opinions from here on out. So the WEEBILL Lab is a smaller gimbal when you compare it to some of the other ones in the market. And the reason for this is the design, and the design is very unique and interesting. It's basically got an L shape for all the controls and the batteries, rather than being a straight handle like you see in a lot of other gimbals. For example, I have the Moza Air 2 here, and this is the typical style that you see most gimbals now. It's just the long kind of pole look with the attachment on the bottom. Now what Zhiyun has done is basically taken the batteries from where they go in the bottom here. Typically this section in the bottom is where the batteries are housed, and they put it up here in the top of the L bracket. Now this is great for two reasons, because when you take off the lower tripod, you now just have a smaller gimbal to work with, so it's not as long. Because they added these quick release plates on both ends, you basically have the ability to switch from an undersling mode to an oversling mode, which means that you could go from shooting in different styles super fast. So the design of this gimbal makes it very easy to work with and use in a lot of different situations without having to adjust much. One of the things that I really like are these added quick release plates that you can get. They're about $20 a piece and you get 2 of them, and what it allows you to do is to take the mini tripod and pop it off the bottom and put it on the other side of the bracket. And what that does is it allows you to go from underslung to overslung. Unfortunately, the quick releases aren't provided in the original kit. They have an additional kit that's called like the creator kit. It comes with a bunch of different parts, and out of the full kit there's a few things that I've actually used. So the quick release is one. There's 2 quick releases that allows you to do this quick change. Now the other piece is the motor to allow you to do focus control. So the focus control doesn't come with the gimbal. It's an add-on, it's an additional accessory, but it's the other piece that I actually found myself using a lot when I'm out testing with this gimbal. So yesterday I spent the entire day shooting a promotional video for my buddies over at Box and Burn. It's one of LA's premium boxing gyms. They're doing an online certification course so that basically you can get certified to lead classes in boxing, so they teach their format. So I was doing a promo video for them. We shot in a bunch of different locations, some of it inside, some of it outdoors, and it was a mix of run and gun shooting while also having some more time to actually set up lighting and do bigger shots. Now I ended up using the Zhiyun WEEBILL Lab on almost the entire day just because of how easy it was to work with this gimbal and be able to switch between the different modes. And one of the things I found I used a lot is the focus, because on this gimbal specifically, the focus wheel works very well. Now when I first pulled the WEEBILL Lab out of the box, nothing was working. I updated it through the phone, and since then I haven't actually had to use my phone to connect it in any way. Once you do the update, once everything's updated, the focus wheel works without having to click a button. You just plug in the cable and you have your focus wheel on the side of the gimbal. One thing I really like about the WEEBILL Lab is how the focus wheel is set up on the gimbals. So you attach everything to the plate that just slips onto the camera. So essentially, this is my setup. I have my GH5, I have my 25mm, which is a 50mm, and I have my motor set up on the plate that I just slip on when I'm ready to get going. Now what's cool about this is such a small package for your motor and everything. It all just cleans up very nice and very small. This I throw in my bag, and this I throw in my bag. And the beauty of this is that I don't have to reset the motors to be able to fit it and to be able to lock it. There's a lot of other gimbals where it doesn't fit flush and you have to actually change your balance to be able to put it in your bag. With the way this one's designed and my GH5, I actually don't. And one of the coolest things about this kind of design is that every motor locks. So when you lock each motor, this thing is rigid, which is amazing because when you travel with gimbals and you don't have locks, basically your gimbal swings around and it could get damaged, and it's just kind of a pain. So in comparison, this is the Moza Air 2. It locks on one of the motors, but then this motor doesn't lock, and this 360 motor doesn't lock. They have one locking motor, but I just don't understand why some of these companies don't put locks on all the motors. It makes it so much easier to travel with. So essentially when you're working with this, you just have your gimbal set up, ready to go, your camera sled built, you slip it on, do a couple seconds of quick adjustments just to make sure everything's balanced and you're good to start shooting. That's kind of the really big perk about this gimbal, is that it's small, it's lightweight, it's easy to get going, and you can get good shots. Now, in terms of the footage and the stability, I mean, that's one of the most important things about a gimbal. Does it make your footage stable? So I noticed at first when I was shooting with this gimbal, I was getting a little bit bumpy footage. As I started playing with the speeds and I bumped up the motor power, I was able to eliminate a lot of this. So it comes down to figuring out the motor speeds that work best with your camera. So on this gimbal, I've been using my 25mm, my 15, and then my 8-18. So essentially a 50, 35, and 16-35. So I've been using a range of lenses, different weights, different sizes, and I've gotten some pretty awesome footage out of this gimbal. So let me just show you a little sequence of some of the shots I'm getting, and just so you can see how stable the footage is. Everything's gonna be played back in real time. I was shooting 4K 60 for most of this, just so you could see how stable the footage is and how much the camera moves around on the gimbal. And one last thing about usability, if you've worked with the Zhiyun Smooth 4, it's essentially the same control setup. So all the buttons are accessible on the actual handle. You can have your lock, your follow, your tilt lock follow, your POV, and all of your motor settings can all be accessed through the handle. You don't have to attach the app. Now there's some really cool features in the app that I haven't really dove much into yet. I played around with them a little bit, but I'll do more of an in-depth review as I work with this gimbal more and more. There are some pretty cool things like object tracking, and then also you could basically use your phone as a motion controller, which I was playing around with and it works pretty well. So it's one of those things I really just need to dive in this product a little bit more and really work with it on more shoots. Up until now, I've basically been using it without the phone. I've just been using the settings that I'm finding on the actual gimbal and just working with it in some different real world settings. And I actually do really enjoy this gimbal. So guys, if you have any questions about this gimbal or there's some features that you want me to test out on a future video, please leave that down in the comments below. Also, keep in mind that this is made for smaller cameras. So if you have a bigger camera with a heavier lens, this probably isn't gonna be ideal for you because it is gonna have a weight restriction on it. They say they could go up to 6.6 pounds. I'm not sure, I haven't tested the entire max weight. GH5 is pretty light with my light lenses. If you're working with bigger cameras with bigger lenses, this might not be the gimbal for you. All right guys, that is it. If you're new to this channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. There's a lot of awesome filmmaking tutorials, camera reviews. I also just like going on adventures, and I think that this is the perfect gimbal to take with me when I'm traveling from now on. Also, make sure you head over to thecreatorfilmschool.com. That's my nuts to bolts course on how to be a creator or a filmmaker. Lots of good stuff. And guys, that's it. I'll see you on the next one.